When someone from a non-English speaking background wishes to study or work in a country where English is the primary language, that's when they have to sit the English test. These English tests are meant to assess the skills of the candidates and assure the admission officers at a university or the visa officers that you are proficient in the language. But the good news is you're watching this video in English, which means you are already comfortable with the language. So guys, if you're planning to give one of these tests and you're not sure which one's the right one for you, stay tuned because I've personally given all these different tests and you'll find out in the video why. And I have included a few tips along the way in each section of the video. So let's get started. Hi guys, this is Pawan and in this video I'm going to give you a super quick overview of the 3 different types of English tests that we currently have. Okay, so let's first talk about IELTS, the International English Language Testing System. This is the most popular and the most widely accepted English exam. It has mainly 4 components: speaking, writing, listening and reading. And mostly it's paper-based, but some IELTS centers across the world have started conducting IELTS on computers as well. The speaking section of the exam is like an interview with the examiner where they go through a few questions based on your daily life, your studies, your hobbies. They can give you a topic to speak on as well during that interview. And that's how they conduct the speaking section of the IELTS. And all the components of the test are marked separately. There's no overlapping when it comes to marking in IELTS. And usually the test goes for about 2 hours and 45 minutes. And the cost of the test is $375 Australian dollars I'm talking about, but the cost may vary depending on which part of the world you're sitting the test in. How you can book this test? Well, it's pretty simple. They've made it really simple these days. So all you have to do is go onto their website and put your current location in, and they'll give you a list of all the test centers that are available for you to sit the test at. Then you can book in for your convenient time in the test center. And I've also dropped the link in the description box below if you want to go and check that out. Now, while you're booking your IELTS, make sure you book for the right one because there's 2 different types of IELTS. There's general training and there's IELTS academic. General training is mainly for those people who are getting their English language skills assessed for immigration purposes only, whereas IELTS academic is meant for those who are getting their English skills assessed for either higher education or getting a professional registration. So make sure you're booking it for the right one. The speaking and the listening part in both the exams, the general training and the academic IELTS, is the same. They only differ in the reading and the writing part. It's usually a bit harder in the academic IELTS. Now, it's very important for you to get familiar with the test format. That's the key when it comes to any of these English exams. So I'm not going to go right into all the different components of the test and what you can do because there's heaps of stuff available online. But I will discuss the speaking part, which is, as I said, a 15-minute interview with an examiner, and they usually discuss very light topics like your hobbies or your studies or something very general. But then there is a topic that they will give you, and usually they give you 1 minute to prepare, and then you have to talk about the topic for 2 minutes. So the examiner will then ask you a few questions related to that topic. So make sure you do a good preparation, maybe do some mock ones with your friends or family members before you go for the test. Now let's talk about my personal experience with IELTS. I gave IELTS for the first time when I was back home in India and I was hoping to come to Australia to study nursing. Honestly, I did go for some training for about 2 weeks just to get familiar with the test format. I always thought my English was okay, but again, as I said, it's really important for you to go through either the training or maybe get material from your friends. Either way, it doesn't matter how, but you do have to familiarize yourself with the test format. So that's what I did, and the first time I sat IELTS, I was able to get the score I needed, which was great. But then I had to sit IELTS again, and you'll find out in the video why. The next English test I'm going to talk about is the Occupational English Test, OET. Now, this English test is purely for healthcare or medical professionals. It's very similar to IELTS because, again, the 3 components, the writing, reading, and listening, are paper-based. There's no computer-based in OET. And the speaking part is like an interview with the examiner. So very similar to IELTS, but this test is set up for medical professionals. So because they use real healthcare scenarios, so if you are a medical professional, you might feel more confident sitting this test instead of any other test. So for example, in writing, they'll usually give you a case notes of a patient. For example, if you're working in a hospital and your patient is getting discharged to a nursing home, let's say, and usually what you have to do is write a letter to the manager or the registered nurse in the nursing home, giving a sort of handover of what has changed in the case of the patient. So what you normally have to do is skim through the notes and write a formal letter. So depending on if you're a dentist, let's say, the case notes of the writing exam will be based according to that. Yes, the speaking part in OET is very similar to that one in the IELTS, but it's not like an interview. It's more like a clinical situation where you are the healthcare professional and you are talking to a patient sitting next to you. So what normally happens is there's 2 role plays and you'll be given a card for the first role play and you will read the scenario and act accordingly. So basically it's like having a conversation with your patient and actively listening and responding appropriately. That's very important. And again, I just wanted to mention that all the components of the OET also are marked separately. There's no overlapping when it comes to marking in all the components of the test. OET is very popular among healthcare professionals, but it's not conducted as frequently as the other tests. And how you can book OET is again very similar to that in the IELTS, and I'm going to drop a link in the description box below. So all you have to do is go onto the OET website and set your current location in and choose in the time test center that's most convenient to you. And yes, it's the most expensive of all as well. It's about 600 Australian dollars. But yes, the cost can vary depending on which country you're sitting the test in. And another thing that you probably need to be aware about when it comes to OET is that results take about 3 weeks to come. So if you are in a rush to give the test and get those results quickly, OET is probably not the test. So when I was approaching my graduation at the end of my nursing degree, my old IELTS was expired, and also because I didn't get that 7 in the writing section of the test, I had to give the test anyway. So I gave IELTS, I think, maybe about 4 times, and every single time I would not get 7 in that writing section again, which was really frustrating. I did some research and I was trying to improve my writing, but I didn't go through any formal training again, because I was thinking my English is okay and I've done all these assignments over the years and I've got credits and high distinctions for them, so obviously my English is not that bad. I didn't think that I needed any sort of training to sit this test again. Anyway, so I gave the IELTS again and I couldn't get through, so what I did was I went for OET instead. But the reason I was trying IELTS over and over instead of OET was because OET was obviously more expensive, and again, you need to book it a month before. Also because the results take another 3 weeks to come. So I was in a little bit of a rush to give the English test and just get it over with. But then at the end, I decided to go for OET. So finally, when I gave up with IELTS and I decided to do OET, I actually didn't go through any formal training. What I did was, there was another friend of mine who was in the same boat as I was, and she wanted to do the OET as well. So what we used to normally do is meet up for little sessions over coffee and just discuss and Google some stuff and try and get ourselves familiar with the test format. That's all we did. And we might have practiced a few mock tests or did some learning there, but no formal training again. And I was able to get B, which is 7 in IELTS, in all the sections of the test, and A in speaking. So yes, I finally got my score with OET, and I was really happy with the fact that I got my registration on time, and so did my friend, by the way. And I was thinking to myself that I don't have to sit all these English exams ever again. But I spoke too quickly there, didn't I? Now let's talk about PTE, which is the Pearson Test of English. Now this test has gained popularity in the last few years. People actually prefer to give this test over IELTS or OET, and you'll find out why. Again, this test has 4 components: the speaking, reading, writing, and listening. They are separated in the test, but they are not marked separately. I'll explain how. And also, this is totally computer-based, even the speaking part. There's no interview, there's no examiner sitting there right in front of you judging you. So it's totally computer-based, and maybe that's the aspect of the test that really attracts few candidates. Now, you might find this interesting that yes, there are 4 sections in the test to separate those speaking, writing, listening, and reading sections. But when it comes to marking, they overlap. Now, what that means is, for example, there is a section of the test in the speaking section where you are asked to read a text aloud. It's called the read aloud. So in that question, you are given a text right in front of you, and all you have to do is read that text. So while you do that, you are not only being marked on reading part, but also for speaking part. For example, if you're getting 5 marks for that one question, 2.5 will go to your reading and 2.5 will go to the speaking. So that's how they overlap. And the cost is same as IELTS. It's 375 Australian dollars. Unless you're booking it late, then there is a late fee. But the cost can vary depending on which country or part of the world you're giving the test in. Yes, there are 2 types of PTE as well. There's PTE General and PTE Academic, but for most English-speaking countries like Australia, Canada, UK, and US, PTE Academic is the way to go. It's accepted for both immigration and for study purposes. Why PTE has become so popular in the recent years? Firstly, I think because it's computer-based. They have taken that human aspect out. Because the exams are being marked by the computer, by an artificial intelligence, as they like to call it in PTE, people feel it's unbiased. Secondly, the amazing aspect of the PTE examination, fast results. You get the results within the few hours or maybe the next day, and that's it. You're done and dusted with the English exam and you don't have to worry about it ever again. And I think people like that. And thirdly, because there's so many dates and so many test centers available when it comes to PTE, and giving candidates that autonomy to choose. So in case you didn't pass your PTE, let's say today, you can sit it tomorrow or the next day or the next day until you pass. So it's less time consuming, especially if you compare it to IELTS. Let's say you have to wait for the results to come out in like 13 days period. And when it comes to OET, you have to wait for the results to come out in 3 weeks, which is, really time consuming. So candidates these days prefer this instead of the other tests. So it wasn't long after I passed my OET with flying colors that my immigration lawyer called and said, maybe you need to sit the English test again for immigration purposes this time and get 8 each instead of aiming for 7 each this time. So what I did was I went back to IELTS, because OET again, it takes 5 weeks to book and then 3 weeks for the results to come out. So I thought, okay, let's try IELTS again, and maybe this time I will be able to get 8 each. But again, I said IELTS the first time, and then I got 8 and 8.5s in the other components of the test, and again in the writing section they kept giving me 6 and 6.5. And after like maybe 3 goes, I was fed up and I gave up. That's when I switched to PTE. But when I did switch, I obviously didn't take the time to get familiar with the format of the test. So I just went and gave the test, and obviously I didn't score a very good score. But interestingly, in my writing section, I was able to score 90. So obviously there was nothing wrong with my writing. If the computer is judging me on my grammar and my spellings and everything else that I need to have correct in terms of writing. So I was really surprised with the results. But when it came to speaking, I did really bad. So obviously there was something wrong, something that was missing that I needed to either research on and get some training on and give the test again. So yes, then I obviously swallowed my pride and went for a formal training. And I obviously took my IELTS test and my PTE results to the training center. And I said, this is really surprising, because in IELTS, they're telling me that my writing is not great. So they keep giving me 6 and 6.5s. And in PTE, they're telling me my speaking is not great. So definitely there's something wrong. And they were obviously able to help me. And after that 4 weeks of formal training, I was very familiar with the test format, and I passed my PTE with flying colors. It was so great that the actual the training center where I gained my training to get familiar with the PTE format, they hired me as their teacher. So yes, while I was working as a registered nurse in an emergency department full-time, I was working as a PTE teacher in one of the centers in Sydney, which was really exciting and a kind of a side job for my side pocket money there, which I really enjoyed. And I came across a few students from different parts of the world, from Philippines, Nepal, India, and what I noticed was it doesn't matter how the English was. we were able to help them get their desired score. So that really opened my eyes in terms of, you might think your English is great. But then if you're not familiar with the test format, then you won't be able to sit the test and pass the test with the desired score you're aiming for. So yes, I really want to stress on the fact that getting yourself familiarized with the test is really important. Now, to sum up, guys, once you've decided which test you want to go for, there are a few tips that I would like to mention. Firstly, again, make yourself familiar with the test format, because even if your English is great, doesn't mean you will be able to crack the test with the desired results. Secondly, start skimming through some practice material, some questions and their answers. There's a lot of stuff available online, also on YouTube, of course. But if you have some friends who have gone through, let's say, formal training, or if they've given a test recently, maybe try and get some help from them. They might be able to help you there. And thirdly, guys, I would really urge you to go online and do some mock tests, because they're usually timed and they give you feedback at the end to tell you where you stand. So guys, that was my personal experience when it came to all these English exams, and because I had the chance to sit all of these exams. So I hope you found this video useful. If you do have any questions, please let me know in the comment box below. And if you would like me to post more videos like this with some useful content, please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.